Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to GW4W's Wine and Tea Wednesday. So we invite you to grab your favorite beverage, wine, tea, water, and spend a little time with us today for a great conversation. I'm here again with my lovely friend and co-host, Shelly Chopra. Hi, Shelly.
Hello.
Shelly is on our board of directors. She is the president of the board of the nonprofit International School of Story and a principal at Lumina Health Partners. And today we are really excited to have two special guests. We have with us today Maeve Wang. And Maeve is an entrepreneur in the retail tech and digital health space. She's a former vice president at Delos Ventures, and she's been with us for our think tank that we held last year. So it's wonderful to have you with us. And Whitney Barkley, who is our GW4W social media lead. She is the owner and founder of Speakerazzi, but it's just such a great name. She's content marketing strategist, she's a creative storyteller, and she's the host of Pink Lemonade podcast. So welcome. It is a pleasure to have both of you with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have younger female entrepreneurs. You know, we've had a lot of us that have kind of been around the block a few times. So having your voice here and kind of a fresh perspective, and frankly, you guys are the leaders, you know, through this next normal and, you know, where we're going to be going in the future. So we're really excited to hear more about what both of you do. A little bit about, and I think it's the question that comes up for most people who have never started their own business. So if you could share with us a little bit about what made you want to start your own business, and if there was anything that happened early on in your career that was key to making that transition from employee to business owner. So Maeve, if we could start with you, that'd be great.
Ooh, okay, that's it's a loaded question. I can't say that I always saw myself as an entrepreneur. I actually kind of found myself in entrepreneurship quite recently. And in the past, I really thought that being an entrepreneur was the ideal role. Being able to build something new, something innovative with an established organization while having the benefits of the resources and the stability of an established organization. And I still think it's a great role, especially for people who are interested in innovating with some stability and resources. But something did happen to me, and it made me realize that I wanted more. I will say that, and I credit my previous employers, my previous teams, I began to build a lot of confidence in myself in building new products, new teams, new ventures from scratch. And I realized that it was something I really enjoyed doing, like identifying a new problem, being able to tackle it, and having the audacity to believe that I could tackle it, even if I'd never done anything like it before. I will definitely credit Delos and Bain for really showing me that it was possible. So with that confidence, I realized that I wanted more skin in the game. Building something from scratch is challenging as it is rewarding, but also very painful. And I was like, if I'm going to be pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into all of this, then I want real ownership. I think a fraction of a percent was no longer sufficient for me. And so I think it was this confidence, this like healthy dose of audacity and this, you know, desire for greater ownership that finally just, you know, prompted me to take the leap.
Maeve, were you scared when you made that leap? When you made that change?
I think that I was less scared and more resigned to a lot of the challenges, and I think it was because I went in with eyes wide open. Mm-hmm. You know, having joined an early stage startup and seeing it through to like being a mid-stage startup and beyond, being in the trenches, building, you know, a new product within a young organization from scratch. Like I already saw how hard it was to do that, to get new clients and such, and the realities of it. And as I was beginning to build out Iambic, one refrain that was common was people telling me, Maeve, you're one of the most prepared entrepreneurs I've ever met. And I think it was because I had resigned myself to a lot of the issues that I've been kind of seeing and building a team and everything. So I was less terrified and more resigned.
Wow.
Very interesting. So yeah,
Yeah.
good training ground going into
Yeah.
this, which I think is somewhat unusual. So Whitney, what was your course to going into starting your own business?
So for me, I think it's two things. When people start a business, I really feel like they do it for one or two reasons. It's either out of necessity or opportunity. And I feel like for me, it was a little bit of both. So to give some background, like I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad, he was a business owner. He's worked in his own business since I was 8 years old. So I always saw him working all the time, right? And so in my head, I'm like, oh, entrepreneurs, they're always working. They're always on the phone. They never have time. I never want to do it. So that was kind of my mentality growing up. I went to college and I had that mindset that, I want to graduate from college. I want to get a job. I'm going to have this life. But then once I graduated and actually got into working, I got bit by the startup bug. So the last job that I worked for was a startup out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And like, this was literally grassroots, like startup. The CEO was the CEO of one of the largest call centers in the world. And he decided to start kind of like a nonprofit / startup at the same time. So, I was brought into that team and I was really just excited about the culture that I was around. I was able to see people work and I literally saw people build something from the ground up. So I thought to myself, wow, like, I know that I'm contributing. I know I'm a part of this, but what is it that I can do? Like, what is it that I can build? Am I really living in my potential in this moment? So, I started to think, I didn't know what it was at first, what I wanted to do, but then I went to a conference after I started to have that idea. And then I realized like, wow, like I want to become a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go into this field. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that I needed to create a plan in order for me to do that. So I created my exit plan from working to become an entrepreneur because I just felt like, I only have one life to live and I might as well live figuring out doing what it is that I want to do. So that's literally has been my path since December of 2015 and I've never looked back.
How did you come up with the name Speakerazzi, Whitney? It's quite catchy.
So one part of my background is in media. So when I first came out of college, I worked as a digital content producer for a television station. So media has always been a part of my background. Like I love like paparazzi, the lights, the camera, everything else. And I'm like, wow, I love the paparazzi. And then I just so happened to always work with people who were speakers, whether they wanted to be a speaker or not. And somehow I think I was asleep and the idea just came to me like Speakerazzi. It just came to me in the light.
Love it.
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. And from what I understand, you actually have a trademark for it too.
Yes. And I went through that process. I did all that myself. That was very interesting. But needless to say, yes, it is trademarked.
Wonderful.
Well, and it sounds like both of you, that you both went into this, as you said, maybe with eyes wide open, and this idea of being prepared. And I think, that's really important for people to hear. Was there anything, was this something that you came to on your own about like, maybe I should have a plan, or did you actually get to talk to others about this before you made that big transition? Anybody that mentored you in any way?
For me, it was some of my closest friends and mentors in my life. People who told me, Maeve, did you know that so much of your work is potentially like patentable? Or Maeve, like you have what it takes to build something on your own. Why not take the leap if you believe you can do it better than, a bunch of other people, that sort of thing. It was actually friends who told me, I always knew that you were going to take this path towards entrepreneurship. It was those friends where I was like, how did you know? And how did I not see this? And like, it was so obvious. So it was a lot of people around me really just cultivating the sense of readiness. And I've just felt very supported, and I feel really lucky and really fortunate. I know that's not something that everybody has. But yeah, it was a lot of people along the way. It was not entirely self-driven here. So yeah.
And Whitney, was there any key people in your life that helped kind of give you that extra push?
Yes. So again, like being a part of that startup environment, just kind of watching how the CEO moved, that really kind of helped me. I don't think he knew that he was mentoring me in a way at the time, but that was a big step for me. And then I really feel like out of the people that I knew, I was probably one of the first people to really step out and do entrepreneurship full time. And so it was really a learning curve for me. Like now I feel like I'm kind of the person giving the advice to other people, but essentially, you know, I literally had to latch on to people that I saw around me. So, you know, being online and watching other people move in the space was something that really helped motivate me. Like, I think, you know, sometimes we underestimate the support that we can get online just by talking to strangers. And that's really one of the ways that I built my business early on, was just having conversations with people who were within the same journey. That really helped me out a lot.
Fantastic.
So as you guys were on your journey, you know, the journey of an entrepreneur is filled with its own ups and downs. And I chuckled, Whitney, when you mentioned you saw your dad work all the time, because my dad was a serial entrepreneur too. And I remember saying, I want a 9-to-5 job because I want to come home at 5 o'clock and I'm going to have a life and I'm not going to do it. And I spent the first 15 years or so of my adult career disowning this part of me and coming back and realizing I'm really an entrepreneur and an innovator at heart. No matter what I do, I hustle. But one of the things I learned as an entrepreneur was, rather than running away from, I don't want to work all the time, how do I set up priorities and how do I set up boundaries for my health and well-being? Right. So you guys as entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, because there are different flavors that comes with that, how have you learned to prioritize your health and wellness in this journey? What have you learned? Maybe I'll start with you.
I think health and wellness, it's deeply personal. For me, it's always been a work in progress. Mm-hmm. And I think health and wellness also means different things to me at different points of the year. For me, overall, it's energy. Like, can I wake up every morning feeling incredibly energized and excited to tackle whatever it is that I have, you know, on my agenda? At some points of the year, it's like me saying, I need to take care of my nutrition. I can't cook for the life of me. I really need to like stop eating, you know, like ramen, instant ramen. That needs to stop. I need to start getting the fresh vegetables. At other points of the year, I'm like, you know, I just got to walk outside. I live by Central Park for a reason. I got to take advantage of this. I'm paying a premium here. And at other points of the year, it's like, I got to pick up my mindfulness again, my meditation. So I think it's still very much a work in progress, and working from home has only made it more challenging. But one thing that this pandemic has kind of brought to the forefront, and you know, we were just talking about this just a few minutes ago, everyone else is on this journey with me now too. Everyone else is also dealing with the challenges of work from home, establishing their own boundaries, right? How to become independent, self-sufficient. These were things that I kind of saw myself already on the path to dealing with, but now that everyone else is on this journey with me, I feel like I can, you know, take notes from friends who would have normally not had to deal with, you know, frozen food from Trader Joe's and taking walks, you know, in the middle of the day just to stay sane. So yeah, it's deeply personal. I'm figuring it out. You know, I welcome all advice, any guidance here.
Yeah, I would say that for most of the entrepreneurs, including myself, particularly over time, I think that one of the things that I would share and that I had to learn too, because I tend to be an energizer bunny and just like go, and I can do it and like it, but it's finding those moments of renewal in whatever way that I can. For me, the non-negotiable is always sleep. I mean, if, you know, sometimes I'm not so great, sometimes I might have an extra glass of wine, not gonna lie, you know, and do those things. But sleep for me is my non-negotiable. And I think sometimes instead of trying to do everything, you know, that one, because of the cognitive functions and everything that it impacts, like, you know, I mean, everybody should pick their own, but you know, I think as you know, when you go out there and do that and you get so excited, and when you're younger, you do have more energy. So I think when you start to learn those things, you're kind of like, I think it's like your 401k for your health and well-being as an entrepreneur, particularly for women. And if you can do that earlier and younger, I wish I could go back to my younger self and say, you know what, you might not want to do that. you know, right now you guys have such an opportunity. And I also think that because your generation has lived through some pretty dramatic changes in our history. I mean, we had the financial meltdown of 2008, which I'm sure both of, influenced you in some way. And here we are in this current pandemic. So I'm really curious, from your perspective, having lived through that financial meltdown and now looking at this, how do you think that's going to impact you going forward as a leader?
I think for me, it's not necessarily something that's negative. Like what I'm finding, especially with people, who are classified as millennials, I see a lot of people who are finding opportunities within the obstacle. Like I think that's the beauty of this generation. We've seen things that some others haven't, some others have seen. But essentially, I think that we know how to be flexible. I think that that is how people are going to choose to lead moving forward. Just learning how to be flexible and really just learning how to innovate around the obstacles that are there. And I know for me specifically, just within this pandemic, you hear a lot of business owners, thinking about like, what am I doing next? What should I do? But, it's really just listening to the environment and understanding how to pivot to that environment. I think that's something that's really important. And I've seen a lot of people successfully be able to do just in the midst of this pandemic.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Maeve?
To echo Whitney, I agree. I think that as an entrepreneur in these times, and then also having begun my career in the middle of another, economic downturn, I don't take anything for granted, right? Just the fact that I am still able to forge ahead and continue building this startup from the ground up in the middle of a global pandemic, on the cusp of a global recession. I feel very, very lucky. I'm just privileged to be in a position to keep on doing what I'm doing. So I don't take things for granted. I think that what Whitney mentioned around flexibility, agility, adaptability, flexibility, scrappiness, all of that is really critical. When I was getting Iambic started, just as a concept late last year, I did not expect to be building my team entirely virtually from the ground up. Prior to this, I was really looking forward to being part of a team in person. Again, it was something I really missed. And so that was one of the reasons why I was initially just scouting for talent in the tri-state area, because I really valued that in-person connection. But now that everything is remote and everything's virtual, and this notion of team and team bonding is just kind of has been upended and redefined, I've now been able to build a team that's across the entire country. I have people in California, right, in Massachusetts, here, of course, New Jersey, Connecticut, and beyond, even like someone potentially in Australia. So I think it's given me access to a much more diverse pool of talent and expertise, and being able to pull these people together and integrate them in such a way where I don't think I would have been able to do that before. And again, to see other people do this too now, right? Even larger established organizations going through the same exact process, just at a different scale, has been really eye-opening. So yeah, just adaptability.
And maybe in a way, when we talk about being an entrepreneur, being adaptable, nimble, being able to pivot are so intricately intertwined in the fabric of being an entrepreneur. I think if anything, this time has really surfaced it up even more on how to really pivot. I think in one of our previous Wine and Team, we were talking with our guests, what is the word, this pandemic, like giving it a word so you feel in control. And we all came up with reset, reinvent, redefine of that. And I think if anything, whether you are in a big corporation or an entrepreneur, it's kind of forcing us to redefine our normal, reinvent our value in a lot of ways. To your point, Maeve, how we connect with people. It's changed. Yes. It's new for some people, and some they've been forced to adapt to it. So, I think it kind of goes back to Whitney, what you said, there is an opportunity behind every challenge, and keeping that mindset and that lens, can you see the opportunity for growth and really focusing on that really pivots the way we approach it on that.
Yes, and Shelley, you said a lot of the re's. One re that I think is really important is also to remember who you are. I think, you know, as we've had time to sit and reflect during the last couple of months, is really reconnecting with your core values. I think when you really get to know like who you are and the things that are most important to you, I feel like decision making is a lot easier to navigate as well. I know for me, we had a question earlier about like self-care and health and wellness. You know, being able to tap into that has really given me clarity around what it is that I'm doing. And I think that is ultimately what helps you lead more effectively, is when you start to reconnect and remember who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a real gift in this pause. I mean, we're using this pause, but I've heard this from so many people, different demographics, different backgrounds, but we spend so much time, or had been spending so much time, being busy, on, all the time. And so this kind of forced time to do that self-reflection, I mean, it certainly aligns with anyone who has an entrepreneurial nature, because you really have to be deeply connected to your passion to get through, all the barriers and the rough parts, and, and be the Energizer bunny behind the process. I also think what I've heard from other millennials that I've met, and I want to say one thing. I've had the privilege of working with many millennial workers and employees and colleagues. I have never had a problem, ever found them lazy, I always got so angry when I heard some of this data. And I agree with you. I think there is particularly for younger millennials, that I've seen this real passion to be connected to their purpose. And so I think that in general, what I've seen in the millennials that I've had the privilege of really getting to know, it's not just about having a job. It's about what am I giving back? How am I creating a better world? What problem am I really solving? Not just about the paycheck and the Beamer and the that we might have seen from the 80s. We're not going to go into that. Do you think some of this for either of you is this connection to purpose? Do you feel that that's stronger than what you've seen maybe in some of the workers that you've been, or colleagues that you've seen that are older?
I would agree with that. I think most millennials want to be connected to something. They want to feel like they're contributing and being a part of something. And my experience is working with older. So it's kind of a 50-50, because you have people who were older, but they had a millennial mindset. Like they want to be attached to purpose and things too. And there's this other people who are like, I mean, I've been there, done that. I'm here, I just want to collect a paycheck. I'm just going to do everything until I get my pension, and then I'm done. So, you kind of have it at two different ends of the spectrums. But I really feel like, there are people who are connected to purpose. And I think this and not even just, even the generations younger than millennials, like I even look at my nieces, like, they're very in tune with what's going on and how they're connected with things. I think that's going to continue to inspire people, people who have not experienced that before, to really try to connect with purpose in the workplace.
Maeve, I know you spent time, I'm just curious, I know you spent time in China and, in the Far East. And I know, and that just brought up for me, like all the young people that have been out in the streets in Hong Kong. And that kind of like activism that to me kind of echoes back to the 60s in the United States. Like it's that kind of, we're going to do this no matter what. So I'm curious, from a cultural perspective, living in a completely different part of the world, and then here, do you think there are differences in the way younger leaders in different parts of the world are going to move forward?
I'm not sure. I think that it's just really hard to say, because it's either like really broad kind of blanket generalizations we're making about, very large and I also just want to take a step back and recognize and acknowledge the fact that we are contemplating, sense of purpose. We're coming from a place of privilege, right? There are a lot of people out there right now who are not in a place where they can think about purpose, and they just need a paycheck to continue paying rent, right? Looking at the unemployment 100%. Statistics. Looking at a lot of people who, millennials who are gig workers, or a lot of gig workers, period, right? They're incredibly vulnerable. They're not thinking about purpose. They don't have the room to do that. So I think just even this activity of reflecting on purpose and our personal values and this level of introspection. We're just really fortunate to be able to do that. And so I just want to like first put that out there, because we are in really tough times where that's not something that a lot of people can consider.
Well, and I think that's an important thing for the leaders that can do that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because if you do have a company and you have the ability to hire people or do this, it's not the same for everybody in your organization. 100%. And even having that awareness as a leader, I think has the potential to change the world in a positive way.
What would we, as every time we run out of time too quick, just when we're getting into the conversation.
I know.
Maeve and Whitney, if there was one advice you could give the younger leaders who are finding their path, their purpose, go forward, what would be that one piece of advice you would give the younger leaders? Whitney, I'll start with you this time.
The advice that I would want to give is, if you want to attract the things that you want in life, it requires you to bring your whole self. I believe that being the true you is a filter for who and what is supposed to be in your life and what's not. I think that by living in a shrunken or watered down version of yourself won't ever give you the life that you know that you're worthy of living. So, don't put yourself in a box, because we don't want anybody else to do that to us, right? So, I would just say consciously choose to live, who you are, and don't live any less than who you are. I think that's just something that has guided me, is just making sure that I'm bringing my whole self. And when you bring your whole self, you just never know what kind of results it will yield.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Maeve.
Perhaps I can contextualize this question in my own personal experiences and say, if I'm speaking to people who are interested in pursuing a similar path as me, entrepreneurship, for example, right? I would say that go in with eyes wide open, right? As much as possible, do your homework, know what you're getting yourself into. I think that for the path that I've taken, for what I can speak to, entrepreneurship was a very personal decision. It's not something that I would advise very broadly. It's not for everybody. And I want to say that building a community, resilience, all of those things, that was what really helped me get here. That's what helped me come so far. I know it's what's going to propel me forward. But yeah, going in, knowing what you're getting yourself into, and having that support system, whatever that looks like for you, regardless of where you are, whatever it is you're doing, but especially if you're going to entrepreneurship, will be incredibly helpful.
Beautiful.
Wow, it's amazing, again, how fast the time does go, but we really want to thank both of you, Maeve, Whitney, for everything you've shared with us today, for everybody that joined us, and we want to just honor your voice, your leadership, and working together for a more compassionate, healthier, sustainable world. So why don't we raise our glasses and toast to that? Better future for everyone. And we invite you to join us again next week for Wine and Tea Wednesdays, when we'll be joined by GW4W member Jennifer Darling. We're going to be discussing connecting and engaging with clients in our new normal, and better ways to leverage our LinkedIn profiles, which seems very specific, but most of us are on LinkedIn. And so she's a real guru in that area and has some fun things to share. If you haven't already, we invite you to connect to GW4W through our website. We invite you to join the GW4W family, become a member, join us on LinkedIn, our YouTube channel. And most importantly, if you do need support during this time, please reach out to us. We do have a global network, and we can get you in touch with people to just listen, support you, or get you to a resource. Or if you just want to suggest a topic for discussion for Wine and Tea Wednesdays, you can email us at info@gw4w.org. And we ask you to remember, great minds sit together.
Together.
We'll see you next week.
Ladies. Thank you. See you next week.